Hey, this is Tim Pierce. Here's a look at blending and arranging rhythm guitar parts in a song. Click the link below if you want to check out the full episode on this in the masterclass with the jam track and the solo and the tabs. There are also links below for Mike Tuttle guitars and the best source for them, Sound Pure. So the first thing I'm going to do is just play downbeat chords, and I'm going to resist any temptation to play more than that because I want to leave space for all the guitars. And this, I honestly wish it was a keyboard. Then I would just have a pad. So the purpose of this is just to state the chords and be the first thing, building block that all the parts can build on. And I put some delay on my Eventide Eclipse, and I'm going to use the vibrato bar on this Ronan Murari so that the chords, because they're simple, will float then. I've seen guitar players, bend the neck a little when they do that. I love that. But for this, I'll just use the bar instead. Let's give it a shot. So the chords I chose are kind of specific, even though it doesn't sound like it. The D minor is a D minor 7, and then the F is an F major 7. I love major 7th chords, so I always try and throw one in when I'm able. And then the A minor 7 is open, as many open strings as I can get. And then the C, I really wanted to do a C major 7, but I withheld that. Sometimes you make a decision based on just 51%, and I didn't want to overuse the major 7th tonality, so I did a straight C. But I love this chord. And then I did a straight G. Just 1s and 5s on the G, no third. Didn't use the third at all. So I was able to sneak in one major 7, which I really love. And then, as you can see, with a little bit of delay on, can make everything float just by massaging the vibrato bar. And I am plugged in to my divided by 13. There's a little bit of gain on the Nobles, ODR1, and then I have the delay from the Eventide. Oh, also a little bit of reverb. You don't hear it much, but it's there. So that's my first building block. So here's the double. So now I'm going to add a simple repetitive part, an ostinato part, and I like repetition because it creates kind of a hypnotic thing when you hear something over and over. I really like it. And it also leaves plenty of room for events that are not repetitive too. But I like to do stuff that that glides over chord changes. And this particular part, when you do an ostinato part, it's good to find notes that really work well over all the chords. And that's actually pretty easy to do in a situation like this. This is in the key of C, as far as I can tell. All the chords exist naturally in the key of C. So this part kind of suggests the shape of the C chord that's up here, fret 8 and fret 10. Little piece of it. And just by chance, I stumbled on the open D note, and I really liked the way it sounds. I have seen the Edge do that occasionally, where he'll just strike an open note in addition to the phrase he's playing. I chose a different guitar. This was a very inexpensive guitar, but the pickups are very open sounding. They're noisy, but they're open sounding. And I plugged into the David Grissom Paul Reed Smith amp. It's a more raw and louder amp than the Divided by 13. The previous guitar, the Ronin Mirari, that guitar was made, it's the opposite of this. This was a very inexpensive build. The Ronin Mirari, that was made from a felled redwood tree. But the Ronin Mirari has pickups that are akin to these because they're the gold foil pickups, so that gives it kind of a vintage, sparkly, open sound. So let me show you this part. This part has a lot of upbeats. It's so it adds a measure of syncopation to everything. I do that a lot. I do a lot of upbeat parts. It also, the other thing about an ostinato part is most of the work I do is meant to be under singing, to exist under singing, to exist as a bed, as support for a singer. So everything I do is a little simpler than maybe what some musicians might do because I'm leaving space for somebody to sing a melody over. So I came up with another guitar part, and my intention was to only come up with a part at bar 7 and 8 when I rested on the G chord each time. But as I started to play, I realized, oh, this can exist throughout. So let's try this part. So this track is very full of guitar parts, and the part I just played, I really enjoyed doing it. Just that last kind of high event to fill in things and make them a little more random sounding. But it didn't come easily. When I first started to execute this, I was trying something different. What I was trying was using my Echo Park delay, which is a tap tempo, and going... letting that cascade, but I could never quite get it in time. And so I struggled with it. I tapped on it some more. I kept adjusting the reverb. There's quite a bit of reverb on this. It's the kind of high octave harmonized reverb that comes, it's one of the effects off this MXR reverb. So I actually, in working at it, I came up with a better solution. Rather than going, which can be good too, I did a kind of a simpler phrase. So I walked back in here, and I thought I was done, but I realized there was nothing driving, no eighths driving the track. And basically the intent of what I did was some breaks. And once again, with all these parts, there's a lot of use of common tones. This chord sequence is in the key of C. We've got D minor, F, A minor, C, and then resolves to G. All these chords exist in the key of C. I never land on a C. That's the key center. And tonality-wise, you can hover around D minor a lot because first two chords are D minor. And then it becomes, this tonality actually works against A sus and C, C2. So the thing I just played, it can be called D minor. It can be called F major 7, F6. It can be called A sus, and it can be called C or C2. So it actually works as an element of all four of the chords that are passing by. And even over the G, it's kind of G6 to G2. But when I land on the G, that's when I'm slamming out getting the satisfaction of just hitting the wide open strings. Now the bass is doing constant eighths, so I don't have to do constant eighths, but I wanted more of a pulse because what I had was a lot of splashes, a lot of arpeggios, some ambience, melodic stuff, but I didn't really have any eighths going, and so that's what this was about. It was nice to be able to fit it in.